Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight, where it is okay to celebrate Christmas. On today's show, we're going down the year and are looking at the downfall of Christianity and rise of this radical socialist mob in the previously greatest country on earth. In the month of January, we saw a law of movement by brave Canadian truckers who took to the nation's capital in Ottawa and held an anti-vaccine protest that lasted over a month. The protesters, armed only with their trucks and the thought of a better world, shut down the country's capital by blocking off roads. And it only took 3 weeks for the police to resort to police brutality, and the scenario turned into brutal hog-on-hog violence. In the month of February, our even braver Americans copied the Canadian truckers' idea and made a convoy themselves, called the People's Convoy. The protesters were also protesting about the dangers of vaccines. The organizers of the protest aimed to reach the capital but abandoned the convoy the day before they would have reached the capital. The convoy would end just miles outside of DC. Also, in the month of February, Russia went fully insane and invaded the country of Ukraine. And although Russia had no actual reasons as to why they invaded Ukraine, they claimed they were denazifying Ukraine and that citizens in eastern Ukraine wanted to be a part of Russia. Russia shelled the country indiscriminately, hitting populous cities, including the country's capital. The month of March got Ron DeSantis wanting more attention and wanting trans people and teachers to suffer more with the Don't Say Gay law. The bill specifically said schools can't teach kids from kindergarten to 3rd grade about sexual orientation or gender. And what the law fails to include is that this literally never happens unless the kids are forced into thinking they are cisgender. And this would allow parents to sue teachers over more things that don't actually happen at schools. The law got signed in by Ron DeSantis, but a judge threw the bill out as it was completely unconstitutional. The biggest story to come out of April was the release of the first part of In Space with Markiplier. Mr. Markiplier has been working on this project since at least January 2021, and this was his biggest project he has ever worked on. And this will probably stay his biggest project, with it having over 6 hours of runtime and 10 endings through both parts. The only other news come out of the month of April was the Johnny Depp's trial between Johnny Depp and his former wife, Amber Heard. And I cannot believe that the judicial system won over the hearts of America and actually worked in having our hero surfer Johnny Depp win in his defamation trial. May was a pretty horrible month, with a lot of horrible things happening in it. On May 11th, Shireen Abu Akleh, a praised Al Jazeera reporter, was assassinated by the IDF. She was covering a raid by the IDF on a refugee camp with 2 other reporters, and all of them were dressed in blue body armor that said press on it. The IDF would continually deny that they had killed her, saying she was probably killed by the Palestinians. And they would only finally admit it later in September. Only 5 days after Shireen's murder, the IDF would fall into the Ricky hole by beating the people attending her funeral and the people literally carrying her casket. In June, the new season of The Boys predicted that SCOTUS would overrule Roe v. Wade, allowing states to ban abortion. The only thing this decision does is push further violence against women, anyone who can give birth. Specifically, with abortion clinics getting shut down, people have to travel further and spend more money to get an abortion. The United Kingdom and Europe experienced an American-like heat wave, where the temperature is so high it's an all-new time record of only 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. In July, there was a mass shooting at Chicago's July 4th parade, with 7 people killed and 30 injured. The shooter's dad, Robert Crimo Jr., and the gun stores that sold the guns used in the shooting were all sued by victims of the shooting. Throughout the year 2022, there were numerous other mass shootings that happened, with gun accessibility being by far the greatest cause. The month of August saw the return of the great man, Saul Goodman, who took down the infamous Alex Jones, a literal terrorist. Alex Jones was sued by families and relatives of the victims of the Sandy Hook massacre, For Alex said many times when the shooting happened, and since then, that it wasn't real and that the victims in it were staged actors. Alex also pushed for some of his viewers to physically harass, with some of the families even getting shot at by his fans. Alex completely lost in all 3 defamation trials, with him defacing the judge, lawyers, and families during the trials, the very reason he was getting sued. His lawyer also leaked his entire phone during one of the trials, which was then given to the January 6th committee. Alex had to pay $965 million to the families for the violence he brought against them. In the month of September, Italy would hold their elections for their new prime minister. Giorgia Meloni would win the election and was a huge advocate for girl bossing and fascism. The party she ran with, the Brothers of Italy, is a very openly fascist party and is a callback to the ISM party, which is made to uphold Mussolini's beliefs after he was executed after World War II. And I'd like to welcome onto the show my good friend Ben Shododo to talk about his new favorite Prime Minister of Britain and his best friend, Ye. Thank you, Mr. Tucker Carlson. Now, October held even more elections in Brazil and Britain. Both of them held elections for their new prime ministers. Brazil held its elections for every government job on October 2nd. The previous president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, lost the election to Lula. Lula was president from 2003 to 2010. He was a president in 2018 on false charges to stop him from being re-elected. Most elections would turn into runoffs, finishing on October 30th. Bolsonaro supporters would cry out and pray to God that Bolsonaro would be made president. And it was awesome. Bolsonaro was the president from 2019 to 2022, and he pushed the country into mass deforestation. Liz Truss was the Prime Minister of Britain for about a month, and she was signed in on September 6th. Rishi Sunak would easily replace Truss and is currently the Prime Minister of Britain. Sunak worked previously for Boris Johnson as one of his cabinet members. Both of them still hating Muslims and immigrants the same. Ye, formerly Kanye West and formerly my best friend, went full Nazi after his divorce with Kim Kardashian. Ye, with no one's favorite white supremacist Candace Owens, wore White Lives Matter shirts to a fashion show in Paris. Ye would get canceled for this, as people can tell White Lives Matter is a white supremacist slogan. After this, he would tweet about how Jewish people are a monolith, and that they control the media, and other basic Nazi stuff. Ye also would come onto this broadcast and actually say some anti-Semitic statements that Tucker would edit out. Ye also would hit up Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes and say things like, "I love Hitler," giving the game away. Another rich man crying on the internet, Elon Musk, was forced into buying Twitter, following him and Twitter reaching an agreement on Elon buying the company. Twitter sued Elon and made him buy Twitter for the amount of money he promised, being $44 billion. Since then, Elon has been destroying the company, with Twitter Blue breaking 2FA and not letting people use competitors' links on the platform. And on top of all of that, Elon fired 4,000 plus employees from the company and has lost most of the site's advertisers after he posted a conspiracy theory regarding Paul Pelosi getting assaulted. The real game of the year, God of War Ragnarok, came out just after the midterms and was amazing. In December, we were #blessed to find out that the founder and CEO of one of the biggest crypto exchanges, Sam Bankman-Fried, was arrested on December 13th for a lot of fraud. He lobbied both the Dems and GOP. Because of the scandal, other crypto exchanges have been struggling and investigated, including the biggest one, Binance. On December 2nd, the FIFA World Cup would start in Qatar. Qatar got FIFA to hold the World Cup by lobbying it enough and conjuring its labor force to create enough stadiums and hotels for the players and viewers. The conditions the laborers were subjected to were insanely bad, and almost 7,000 workers died. Many of the players also donned love bands to show support for gay people against Qatar banning them.
All that masculinity, all that gender-neutral masculinity, things could get out of hand. So in the spirit of easing tensions and lowering the temperature at CNN a bit, we have no problem admitting for the record that Mr. Hiker is one heaping, helping hunk of a man. We're not ashamed to say that at all. We have no problem admitting that. No problem whatsoever.